One thing nearly all travelers are worried about before leaving on a trip is scams. I was really worried about it before I left on my first trip, but here's something to remember. It's okay. Every tourist overpays for something at some point. So you don't need to stress about that. You don't need to really obsess or worry too much about it. I think the goal should be to not fall victim to any huge scams. You don't want to be taken for any large sums of money. So I'm going to tell you about some common scams and things that you're probably going to encounter. But again, this is just to give you some preparation. Again, this is fun. You're visiting a new country. You don't want to go in really hard and tough, and you're going to be meeting lots of new people. So you don't want to come into it with the idea that everyone you meet is trying to scam you. That's probably not true, and you might miss out on meeting some great friends. But at the same time, if you meet some people who are like, oh yeah, follow me, just 5,000 rupees and I'll take you all around town. Okay, that also might be a scam. So just don't believe everything you hear. A common scam that you may or may not be aware of actually involves these in India, rickshaws. So here's the thing to be aware of. Sometimes when you tell a rickshaw where you're going, you'll say, hey, I need to get to my hostel. I'm going to Hostel Rishikesh. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. They'll say, oh, okay. Hostel Rishikesh burned down. And you're like, what? Wait, but no, my friend was there last week. I'm pretty sure it's fine. Oh no, just yesterday it burned down. Or, oh, there was a flood. It washed away. What hostel? No, that is closed. However, I can take you to one just down the road. Now, here's the thing. Again, this is a scam that is pretty common in some of the major cities. It's a harmless scam in the sense that if you haven't already prepaid for your hostel or your accommodation, you're not going to necessarily lose money here. They're doing this because they will get a commission to this other place that they're going to take you. A thing to be aware of is that your hostel hasn't burned down. Okay, so when they tell you this, even, by the way, sometimes they will rope in their friends. Another friend will say, hey, wait, you heard about Hostel Rishikesh? The other guy comes up, oh yeah, that burned down. Okay, so it's just something to be aware of. You can't always trust exactly what they're saying. One time I was in Delhi and I'd arrived super early in the morning and I went to a rickshaw and I was trying to get a fare price to go to my hostel. And they were like, oh, no, it's going to be a ton of money. And I was like, well, I'll just take the subway. And they were like, oh, well, you can't take the subway because, it's like 5 different changes. You have to take, 3 different lines and you have to do this. It wasn't exactly accurate either. It was like I had to take 2 different subways, but it wasn't a big deal. So sometimes they will exaggerate claims because, of course, they want you to take their rickshaw. So, not something to super stress about, but definitely something to be aware of, that your hostel, it didn't burn down. And it might not be like 5 subway trains to get somewhere, but you can still take that rickshaw. You can negotiate with them, or you can just find someone else. Another thing, before we get into the deep parts of some scams, begging is also a common thing. And I was really concerned about begging before I got to India. And it sort of comes close to with some scams, right? Because some beggars aren't actually, injured. Maybe they're kind of faking, and these sorts of things go on. Here's my thing about begging. I think people should always do what they feel comfortable with. If you are in a place and you feel like you want to give money to someone, that is absolutely your prerogative, and it's your money at the end of the day. However, I have one caveat, which is that you should not give money to children. Don't give money to children because a lot of times, unfortunately, in these countries, some children are kidnapped and forced to beg. These children should be in school or with their families. So if you see a child begging on the street, that's the only time I say, don't give money. Don't give money to children because you don't want to encourage this sort of behavior. Giving food to a needy child, absolutely, why not? I've given bread and food and things like this to children on the streets, but giving money to children is definitely a dangerous proposition if you don't know the parents, if you don't know the story of that child and how they came to be on the street. It can feel like you're doing a good thing, but you could actually be funding kidnappers. We don't want to do that. Okay, so let's move on to something more lighthearted. There's some fun scams that you'll see around that are really lighthearted and kind of silly. So one scam that almost got me, I've seen this in India, in Cambodia, and whatever, and it seems like it starts out like it's going to be such a fun thing, like you might be doing some good. So this woman came up to me and asked me to buy some milk for her baby. And I was like, girl, I got you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a lot of money, but like, you're trying to give milk to your baby? Like, no problem. Let's tag team this together and help bring up this child properly, right? Okay, wrong. I got to the store. The minute I got there, you guys, I could just feel that like it was a scam. Like, the women at the store were just looking at me, and I could really feel their thoughts. And they were saying to me like, or they were thinking like, is she gonna fall for this scam? And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, am I about to be scammed? What's going on here? Like, I thought I was just about to buy some milk. Here we go. So it turns out this girl was trying to get me to buy like this big container of powdered milk that was really expensive, and something just felt off. By the way, a lot of times with travel, if something feels off, it probably is. Trust your instincts. So in this moment, all of a sudden, she had a baby with her, by the way, a child with her. All of a sudden, I started looking and I was like, you know what, guys, that child was kind of big, like maybe 1.5. Is this child still drinking milk, you know? And I said to her, like, that kid looks kind of old. Is the milk for this kid? No, oh no, for a different baby. Oh, right. Oh, sure, you're carrying this baby, but it's for a baby at home. And then I was like, but why don't you, like, not to be presumptuous, but like, why don't you breastfeed? Like, isn't milk free? Whatever. She had lots of excuses as to why she needed this milk. The truth is, I later found out people will ask you to buy milk, and what they do is they then take that milk, they return it to the store, and get the money. So that's how that scam works. Again, for me, I just kind of felt the energy of it and realized like, oh my God, wait, I think I'm about to be scammed. And then I heard about this later. Now, this same scam comes up in many different forms. So sometimes it's a woman asking for milk, and it's not actually, right, it's the powdered milk that they can just return. Some people do it with wheat. They'll ask you to buy them chapati, which is bread in India, but they don't actually want the bread. They want you to buy a bag of wheat, which they'll then return. Now, by the way, if you see this scam going down, don't feel the need to be the police and, you know, kind of interrupt these scams in progress. I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, these are adults that you're dealing with, right? So it's not a super harmful thing. It's not something to stress yourself out about, but it is good to be aware that these things do happen. Another common scam involves sadhus. They're like kind of holy men in India. Some of these holy men are kind of fake sadhus. They're not exactly, you know, the proper sadhus. So I had one encounter with a sadhu, and you know, I saw him watching. He was waiting for me to finish eating, and he said he wanted to talk to me. So I was thinking, you know, I think this is probably a scam. But then I said, no, Roman, don't be so judgmental. This might not be a scam. This sadhu may just want to speak to you. But guys, again, trust your instincts, right? So I kind of had a feeling that this guy was a little bit off, but whatever. So as I'm leaving, you know, he said to me, he said, oh, where are you from? Started off all cool. It always starts off cool, right? Before going left. Oh, where are you from? You know, oh, I'm from the US. Oh, great, nice. Oh, okay, you're here traveling. Okay, I have a gift for you. This is what he said. And I'm like, a gift? No. And he's like, no, I have a gift. And he starts pulling it out. Now, by the way, then I was just waiting to see, because I was curious to see what he was going to pull out. And he pulls out some mala beads, which are like prayer beads in India. So he's like, oh, I have this gift for you. And I was like, no, thank you, no, but thank you. Now, by the way, the reason I said no is because people will sometimes give you a gift, offer you something, because they want you to feel obligated and indebted to them, so then they can swip it around and take your money. But I've been through this before. It's not happening to me. So I was like, no. But again, by the way, you guys, I was still being nice. Like, I wasn't being rude yet. Okay, so I was like, no, thank you. And the guy said to me, then he was like, well, then you go, get out of here. And I was like, well, you know, okay, you know, whatever, like, fine. And as I'm walking away, he was like, I thought you were a nice girl. I guess he thought wrong, didn't he? I would rather be a smart woman with all my cash in my pocket than a nice girl who he can take for a ride. So again, these are things that will happen when you're traveling. You may encounter people that have different agendas that run a little bit parallel or perpendicular. They cross paths with yours, but they're not the same. It is okay. Remember, you can always say no if you don't feel comfortable. And another thing to watch out for, I have heard some really terrible stories about this, you guys, which is you need to be careful who you book your tours with and your travel with. You really only want to book stuff. Most hostels and hotels, you can book things through them, or they will refer you to travel agents. So if you're in India, you need to book a train ticket, a bus ticket, whatever to get around. Book it through your accommodation or have them refer someone to you. I have heard stories of people who just book it from someone that they kind of meet someplace on the side of the road. Guys, they've spent up to like $1,000 and have nothing booked. Okay, like people give them these fake looking receipts and whatever. They think they've booked something. No, they've just gotten a credit card slip. That part was legit. The credit card charge was real. The rest of it was a fantasy. Okay, so make sure when you are booking your accommodation, get a recommendation, get a reference, do it with someone that you know is not taking advantage of you. But like I said, don't take it all so seriously. If you overpay for some things, life happens, you know? In markets, a lot of people do try to bargain. In India, bargaining is common, but don't freak yourself out. Like I had an instance where I was trying to buy a skirt and my Indian friend was like helping me. Guys, she got so heated over this negotiation, I couldn't get the skirt. She was like, no, we're leaving. She like stormed off. I didn't get the skirt over 50 cents. I'm still thinking about it. It was literally like over 6 months ago. I still want that yellow skirt. Yellow is my color. Not at that store, not at that day. For 50 cents, we walked out. She was in a huff, okay? So a little bit overpaying, 50 cents extra, whatever, it's not such a big deal. The only time you need to be aware of it is check the prices though. Like if you're staying at a hostel, ask them how much a rickshaw should cost. Ask them how much things should cost to get from A to B. You don't just want to overpay too much because you can actually disrupt the local economy. So there are times when I've been in Rishikesh and I've been looking for rickshaws and I can't get a fair price because the tourists are in town. They know that someone will pay 10 times the fair price, and I've heard this from other locals where locals actually have trouble getting transportation and getting around their own city because the rickshaw drivers or different people only want to take tourists who they can charge these astronomical fees to. Okay, so that's not good for anybody. So that's your scam overview. So those are some of the really common ones to look out for, but again, it's not a reason to not go. These are just things to be aware of. Don't be too hardened. You know, just move through it all with ease and you'll see it's not such a big deal and you got this. You're ready.